Men's Forum wants you to master men's blueprint for life. Learn how to build wealth, build quality relationships with the right people, lead a better and healthier family life, live your full potential, inspire the world. Men were born to lead, keep, and protect the family. Join Men's Forum and master your blueprint for life. Men's Forum, all you need to become a better man.
How does one stop trauma from stopping you? The reality is that we have millions of people around the world who experience some form of trauma. Perhaps you are experiencing financial trauma, relationship trauma. And what happens very often when you interface and encounter these type of trauma, for many persons, your health stops and your entire dreams and hopes and aspirations is hijacked. What Chris and I want to do is to give you tools and processes and strategies and systems to get unstuck. But to get unstuck, it means that you must stop trauma from stopping you. But how can you do this? Today, we will give you some step-by-step approaches that can really position you to position yourself to be great, to live your best life today. Why? Because we genuinely believe that you were born to be great, all right? But you must have the right information. So without further delay, I want to introduce my partner, and his name is Chris. In the event that you are reaching Chris for the first time, you're seeing Chris for the first time, and perhaps will be hearing Chris for the first time, Chris is the author of this book titled Becoming a Better Man. Chris is a personal development coach, but he has also spent quite a number of years, over 30 years, in the construction field. So he has a wealth of knowledge in construction. But guess what? His heart is with empowering people. His passion is all about empowering people. And we at Best Life Ministry is excited to partner with Chris because you will not only get his book, which is Becoming a Better Man. Chris and I, we are also the brain behind Men Forum. All right. And why Men Forum? And Chris will talk about that shortly. Because what he has seen is that men goes through a lot of challenges in relationship, a lot of challenges when it comes to financial independence. And Chris wants to help. So in the Men's Forum, Chris will teach you how to learn and master your sense of self. He will teach you how to master, your sense of purpose and your sense of direction and so much more. Chris is also the brain behind Family Forum. And Family Forum is really going to help you to understand how to come together as a family unit and how to leverage that family togetherness in group economics, in minimalism, and to position yourself to build wealth. That's the ultimate vision behind what Chris has. So again, I'm happy that Best Life Ministry is now merging, collaborating with Chris in this journey that he's on to touch and transform the lives of people all around the world. Chris, it's great to have you here today. We have a lot to unpack. We know that men go through a lot of trauma in relationship, a lot of trauma fighting for themselves, their sense of self, a lot of trauma in finance. And I want to open up the floor to you to speak to some of these challenges that you see men and the family are faced with in the world today.
Yeah, I think, first and foremost, you need to do some research with some help and find out the underlying cause of the trauma. See, I know that personally in my own life and a lot of men that I've worked with since, they think that there are certain things in their life that are holding them back. But what they don't realize is those aren't even the real things that are holding them back. We all think, if we could just get a job making more money, right? Or if I could just buy that new house, I'll be happy. Or if I could just have this one break come along, it'll change everything. And the thing that I realized in my own life when I was doing my own personal development was that the things that I was blaming for my situation were not the things that were causing my situation. And so then it was time to do that thing that I, preach about just about every episode, is get vulnerable enough to find out what the real situation is. Because people in general, especially men, do not want to be vulnerable enough to look at the past, to figure out what mistakes they made, to be accountable for those mistakes and to overcome them, right? There has to be some vulnerability and some accountability in anything that you do. And the last thing that a man wants to do is admit that he made some mistakes. None of us like to do that. But it is job number one to overcome those mistakes, is to hold yourself accountable for them, understand what your part was in them, and then figure out ways to overcome it so that you can move on.
Great share, Chris. Chris, I want to reflect a little bit on some biblical truth. I'm going to be brief here. Mm-hmm. When we look at Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, it clearly states that my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And Chris, what you're pouring into them here is knowledge. Mm-hmm. Knowledge that can literally equip them with the tools to make better, smarter, wiser decisions. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to make those mistakes and open up themselves to that type of, trauma that is going to pull them back. Mm-hmm. Now, in giving men some step-by-steps, I want to say step one, you need to have a vision for your life. Mm-hmm. All right? You need to have a vision for your life. And when you join the Men Forum and you join the Family Forum, Chris and I will be working with you to ensure that you have that clear vision for your life. Mm-hmm. You see, your life is not something that you want to gamble with. Your life is not something that you want to play guesstimation with. Your life is the greatest asset the world has ever known. Mm-hmm. And you want to treat it that way. And that means that you must have a clear vision mm-hmm. of what you want with your life, why you want it, and how to accomplish it. Mm-hmm. And that is something that Chris and I is committed to helping you to figure out. Now, I'm just going to talk a little bit about vision. What exactly is vision? Vision is the ability to think ahead. All right, you want to think ahead. Think ahead of what? You can think ahead about the quality of life that you want for yourself. And Chris will talk to you about this. The first area of business that you should be focusing on is how to master your sense of self, how to master your sense of purpose, how to master your sense of direction, vision. All of this is vision. And all of that can now escalate into the quality of life that you want with your spouse, the quality of life that you want with your kids. Chris and I will give you the step-by-step in terms of how to make this happen. Do you have your blueprint for life? Mm-hmm. The reason you're going to struggle, the reason you're going to have difficulties is because you don't have this blueprint. Mm-hmm. The same blueprint that Chris and I want to give to you so you can better your life. You can embrace a better quality of life because you were born to be great. But knowing that you were born to be great is not enough. Mm-hmm. You must have that blueprint that is now going to position you to come into greatness. Mm-hmm. And that's what Chris wants to give to you. All right. That is the thesis that Chris have built out to ensure that you have this blueprint so you don't have to struggle through life. Mm-hmm. You don't have to guess through life because you have a vision for your life and you have a blueprint for your life. All right. Along with this, you have the mentors, you have the coach, you have the sponsors, you have the supportive community behind you to take you much faster to the destination that you have for your life. Mm-hmm. Let me quickly go through some things and then I'm going to hand you back to Chris. Vision is the ability to think ahead. Vision is the ability to see beyond problems. Vision is the ability to take informed action. I'm going to pause here just a little bit. Many person, as you look at your vision, the things that you want to accomplish. I want to be rich. I want to be successful. I want to start a successful, business. I want to grow my business into a 6, 7, and 9-figure brand. You have a vision. But then you're thinking ahead. That's good. But then very often, as you think ahead, you're seeing the problems. And guess what? You get stuck in the problem zone. and you get stuck in the problem zone, because Chris will say to you, you don't have your blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
But your vision is representative of not only thinking the great thoughts, but it also represents understanding the strategies to position yourself to embrace that
Mm-hmm.
great life. Chris will tell you more about that. Vision is the ability to take informed action. So if you're taking action and you're not getting the results that you want, perhaps it is now time to take informed action. Now, what is the difference between action and informed action? You see, very often you're taking action, but you are not the contractor. You might be on a boat and you might be steering that boat, but you don't know how to read the navigation because you have never done it before. You see, that's action. It may not be informed action. Informed action is when you assume position as the captain of that ship and the pilot of that plane and the director of your life, and you know exactly what you're doing. Guess what? When you have the blueprint and you take your time to study your blueprint and master your blueprint, it allows you to take informed action. So what Chris and I wants to do, we want to mentor you and coach you. If you need sponsorship, we're going to give you sponsorship. If you need to be part of a supportive community, we have set this up for you. So you're part of a community that is going to give you that support. So you don't have to do it on your own. And here the plus here. Because of the fact that you have mentors and coaches and sponsors, supportive community that's going to be here to support you to achieve your objective, you have a pool of people, a pool of dynamic talent who have achieved a whole lot in their lives, who have been through a whole lot in their lives, that is now sharing that with you. So guess what? Because you have people like Chris who have hit rock bottom and has reached back to the top. He is not taking action. He knows exactly what to do because he has done it 1,000 times to position you for greatness. And that's the difference between action. Action is like when you're moving in a direction and you just have that blindfold over your eyes. Action is when you go into a destination that you've never been before and you're worried about it. But when you have a leader that is leading that path, guess what? Your worries fades away. And that's what Chris and I wants to do for you. Give you the tools, the support to be able to take informed action. So trauma, stop holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, to you, my brother.
Yeah, you said a lot of very good things. And, the key is the one thing that I dealt with the most and that I see in other people that I help along the way is that until you can take informed action, first you need to understand what those actions are and gain that knowledge. But that knowledge without self-belief doesn't do much good. There are a whole bunch of people that go to the school a whole long time to learn a bunch of stuff, but if they don't believe they can accomplish it, it doesn't do much good, right?
Exactly.
And so what I've realized is that as long as you are letting trauma of the past hold you down, then you can never get to a spot in your life where you truly believe that you can move forward. Right. I hear a lot of other speakers that say a lot of good things, but some of the things that they say really get on my nerves sometimes because it's not completely accurate. Right. And I've heard many people say, you just need one person to believe in you. If you can get the right woman that believes in you, if you can get the right this that believes in you, the only person that you need to believe in you is you.
It's you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's nice to have additional support. Okay. But if I'm stuck in my trauma, if I'm stuck in my past and I'm still letting those things not let me be accountable and moving on past them, you can believe in me all you want, Gary. If I don't believe in myself, I'm not going to do the work necessary, right? There are a whole bunch of people that want to change their life and they want the easy road to do that, right? There is no easy road. We can help you a whole lot. We can give you the tools. We can walk you through them step by step, but there's going to be some work, and there's going to be some informed action steps that are going to be necessary from you in order to change your life. I blamed everybody else for all of my problems for almost 40 years. It wasn't until I realized that everything that happened to me was in one way or another my fault, and I held myself accountable for those actions that my life started to change.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
believe in yourself, be accountable for what's happened in your life, stop blaming others, and then get to work. Get to work on these informed action steps. Do research, do the daily routine, join this program, do what you have to do to put yourself in a position to be the best person that you can be. I talk to people every day when I'm out and about doing outreach. Oh yeah, man, I would love to know what you know. My whole life would be different. But they don't do the work necessary to know what I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Chris, you said something, and I want us to pause a bit and just examine it, because it is deep. And I think sometimes we skate through these profound concepts and people miss the message.
Mm-hmm.
You said something, Chris. You can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a first degree, a second degree, you could have a master's degree, you could have a doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have self-belief, you're compromised.
Yeah. I
Chris,
was that guy,
so
right?
deep.
You talked about it numerous times. I was very successful in the construction industry. I, had a nice house. I had the nice cars. I had the 6-figure salary. But I literally was completely miserable and destroying my life during that period, right? People don't understand that I deal with tons of materially successful people every day that would give all of that up to find some peace and happiness, right? The key is to find the peace and happiness and then accumulate the material things that you can spread around to others and give them joy. That you don't win by getting the most toys. I used to hear people say that the man with the most toys wins, right? That's not the truth. I thought that was the truth for a long time. The truth is that a man positions himself to be exactly who he wants to be and then spreads those fruits of his labor with others. That's the guy who wins.
Yep. Yep. Chris, I love your response. What I have noticed, Chris, and I don't know if you have noticed the same thing. I see this happen all the time. You have very bright people that are underachievers. And they're underachievers because of the word that you use, self-belief. That has a lot to do with fear. And what I'm seeing here, Chris, is that fear creates trauma.
It does. It's one of the biggest creators of trauma.
My God. My God. You know what I like about this, Chris, is that what becoming a better man can do for those persons, and we know that we have millions of these people across the world, what the Family Forum can do, what Men's Forum can do, is provide them a platform where they can get mentorship to enhance their self-belief, where they can get the coaching to enhance their self-belief, where they can be a part of a supportive community that constantly demonstrate belief and confidence in them to help them to really overcome self-doubts.
Yeah.
Chris, as we talk about this, Chris, I want to push just a little forward, because I remember many years ago, we have started the Inspire the Child, Inspire Change Foundation. And one of the reasons why we have started that initiative is because when we look at humanity, we recognize that human potential to achieve greatness is really exceptional. All right? And we can look at some of the successful people. We can look at Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is among one of the wealthiest people in the world because of his investment knowledge. And we can look at Bill Gates. Bill Gates is among one of the wealthiest people in the world. And we can look way back at history. We look at the Rockefellers. They might not have been scholars, but they were blessed with at least one seed that they were taught how to plant it so it can grow and it expand. The point I want to make here, Chris, is that people have the potential to be great. All right, just like the Warren Buffett, just like the Rockefellers, just like the Elon Musk, they have this potential right inside of them. But many persons just don't know how to activate it. All right, they don't know how to activate it. And that comes back to what you said, Chris, self-belief. Can you imagine if we have a society of people where every day you pour into them enough seeds for them to start believing in themselves, and you give them that support? What a better world we're going to have, Chris.
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's the biggest thing, right? That's the biggest thing that I see every day. I deal with people in all walks of life, right? And there are two things that hold most people back. And those things are fear and lack of knowledge, right?
Yep.
And the fear part starts so young in life, right? We've talked about this before within my own personal life is, you are guided in a way to be safe, right? And always being safe creates fear, right? Because then you're afraid of being unsafe, right?
That's true.
I don't know anybody who has ever jumped out of an airplane, even though they were scared to death to do it, right? You have to embrace that fear. You have to get over that fear. So the real movers and shakers in the world in this day and age, there are a host of other names that you didn't mention of people that have all kinds of success and a ton of money, right? But they all have one thing in common. They learned exactly the steps that they needed to take. And then they took some risk and they overcame fear and they did what they need to do. There are so many of us that are, oh, I can't spend that money to try to start a business because if I lose it, I'm going to be broke. Right. Or I can't take $100 a week out of my paycheck and live a little more modestly right now so that I can invest money and live better later. Right. I have to take my wife to dinner every week or she'll leave me. Right. Because I'm not giving her what she wants out of life. There's all these excuses that you can make for living the way you are. Right. I did it for a long time. The only key ingredient that you need is to understand that what you're doing now is obviously not working because you're not where you want to be. So then how do we figure out what those steps are to be able to get you where you want to be? And then stop being scared to take them.
Exactly. Chris, I do believe that people directly and indirectly, they're socialized to flow from fear. You said it just now, very often when you create a situation of comfort, it prevents persons from knowing the opposite of comfort. And when that time comes for them to interface with the opposite of comfort, they don't know how to deal with it. And that in of itself creates trauma.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do believe as parents, very often we are guilty of that because we want to protect.
You want your kids to be comfortable, right? But the key is instead of teaching them to be comfortable, we need to be teaching them how to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, exactly.
Right? I mean, and my parents didn't teach me that either. You know what I mean? We're not teaching our kids that. And what we're doing is We raise them in this bubble, and then when they become adults, the bubble bursts.
Exactly.
Right. And then we're just floundering around trying to figure things out. We were talking about some things the other week, and some of the statistical numbers are
Yeah.
astounding to me. Like 90 something percent of the population doesn't have $500 in their savings account.
Yep.
Yep.
That's true.
If you did a survey on the amount of people in America that said they love their job, I guarantee you it would be less than 10% that said they do.
Mm-hmm.
We all do these things that we have to do because we have trained ourselves to, if we don't do these, we can't live, we can't get by, right? And so you create this fixed mindset that you and I have talked about before, to where you're fixed on that. I have to go to work every day. I have to do this so that I can get by, so that my family's got food, so the car payment's paid. Your life is never going to change like that. Yeah, you're going to continue to live paycheck to paycheck, and you're going to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, what I see is that when you try to just live that life, eventually the financial stress causes so much trauma that it destroys marriages. It destroys parental relationships. Because especially for a man, we are programmed to do two things, right? Be the provider
And
protect everyone.
Be the protector.
Right? Okay. So when we can't provide the life that we think our family really should have, then we're not being the provider that we want to be.
Great.
And that trauma right there is the worst trauma a man can feel, because you feel like a failure.
Exactly.
Right. And until you take some informed action steps to not feel like that failure anymore, that emotion will devastate you your entire life.
Exactly. Chris, and this again is why I love the family forum on what we spoke about early on with our kids. I do believe that the family forum will equip them with so much of information that they know how to protect, but then they also know, how to let go with control. All right. Because too much of comfort and too much of protection may end up hurting your loved ones. And what I've learned, Chris, is that sometimes you only notice when you're at a crossroad. You only notice when they reach of a certain age and you start to, interface with certain things. And it's better if you know it before. All right. You can prevent it from happening. And their transition into adulthood can be so much more smoother.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, right, is every parent says, I just want my children to have a better life than I had, right? Every person that's ever had a child, that has come out of their mouth. The problem is that we're not teaching them how to do so. We're not teaching them how to be their best. We're teaching them how to survive. And that's not the correct way of doing it, right? Is if you really want your child to have a better life than you did, then teach them how to be better. It starts here. Teach them how to be better, make better informed decisions, so that they don't end up in credit card debt and behind on their mortgage and all these things that we all, right? If we were informing them how to do things correctly in every aspect, like we are here in these forums, then children wouldn't struggle when they become adults.
Exactly. And Chris, we don't want to teach them only the theory. We have to teach them also in the practice.
Yeah, and that's why this is all laid out, right? It's so that we can go step by step on an intimate basis and give people not only the information that they need, but teach them how to applicably use that information in everyday life, right?
Great.
I studied all of this stuff for years, right? The problem is I didn't know how to apply it to everyday life. Only when I started to come up with small goals and daily action steps and, okay, I'm going to apply this, this, and this. And then when I master those three things into daily life, Then I'll add this thing and this thing. And now I'm responsible for putting 5 things into application in daily life, right? Nobody is just going to read this book or watch our podcasts and just know how to instantly run their life. That's not the way it works. You have,
Exactly.
you have to come up with application. It has to be informed application, and then you have to put it into daily practice.
Exactly. Chris, I want to reflect on something you spoke about early on. You talk about the paycheck to paycheck cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give some step by step that can really help people through this process.
Mm-hmm.
What I've seen, Chris, is that millions of people across the world, they have a desire to embrace financial freedom. And there's nothing wrong with that desire.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say 3 things before I go into this to give these step by step. I spoke earlier about vision, and what exactly is vision? Vision is the ability to have desire, and I will define desires as now. Vision is your motive and your mission. The motive and mission must be right, and vision is also strategies.
Mm-hmm.
You must have strategies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me talk briefly about your vision and your desire, vision and desire. Perhaps your desire is to attain financial independence,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you do that? How, what are the step by step to embrace financial independence? Now, I'm going to give you a brief, and when you come to the men's forum and the family forum, we're going to go deeper into this for you. But any attempt to embrace financial freedom, you must have a source of income. Now, that source of income can come from multiple different platforms. For example, one, you can trade your time for money. But as you trade your time for money, you must recognize that you are only earning as you transfer your time, your talent for money. That's one way to earn. Perhaps it's the best way that you can start based on where you are in your life. The second thing that you can do to earn money, you can become self-employed. But being self-employed doesn't mean you're not trading your time for money. You're still trading your time for money.
Mm-hmm.
The upper level here is business ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Because now that you own a business, what this suggests is that you have a team of people at the strategic, tactical, and operational level to help you with that business. So because you have people at the strategic, tactical, and operational level, guess what? You can delegate the responsibility. So that gives you back some of your time.
Mm-hmm.
When you own a business that is running successfully, you can take back your time.
Mm-hmm.
And what you need is that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're able to take back time, it means that you have more time to focus on wealth building systems,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a business that is running itself, that is generating income.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The fourth approach is smart investment strategies.
Mm-hmm.
You must have a source of income, all right, if you want to come to financial independence. So what is smart investment strategies? Again, you have plenty. We're not going to go into a whole lot today, but when you come into the men's forum, when you become a part of the family forum, you will get all of this information. When you
Mm-hmm.
become a part of Best Life Ministry, you will have this information. Now, let me say this, smart investment strategies. How much do you know about 401k?
Mm-hmm.
Is it giving you enough dividend at the end of the day? How much do you know about stocks and bonds and mutual funds? And how much do you know about hedge funds? How much do you know about private equity investment? How much do you know about real estate investment? Now, when you want to attain financial independence, it makes a lot of sense to mentor with Chris, to mentor with Coach, to mentor with Chris and I, who can help you to understand what this blueprint looks like
Mm-hmm.
and how to apply this to your life.
Yep.
Remember, I said early on, my people shall perish because of a lack of knowledge. And Chris
Mm-hmm.
spoke about a lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So because you don't have this knowledge, you're going to perish. But let me go further.
Mm-hmm.
This is not you alone that is likely to be perishing here because you don't have the knowledge.
Mhm.
As Chris would have said, because you don't have the knowledge and you don't have a spouse, you create that you open the door for her to go through the perishing now because you don't have the knowledge as to how to get off of the paycheck to paycheck cycle.
Mhm.
But now it's not only your spouse, you and your spouse now happily married, you're in love. Now you get one kid, two kid, three kid. You now open the floodgates of trauma to come to them because you don't have this knowledge. And Chris and I, we want to help you to fix this long before it becomes a problem. All right. You don't have to subject your life to paycheck, knowing that you were born to be great, knowing that you can stop trauma from stopping you with the information Chris is going to give to you. All right. But to get the information, I want to encourage you to become part of the men's forum,
Mhm.
to become part of the family forum, and to start to read a few free books that is online so far on becoming a better man. You
Mhm.
have chapter one, you have chapter two. Our mission is to serve you. Our mission is to position you for greatness because we know that you were born to achieve greatness. Now, if you're a Christian, don't just take it from me. I want you to go to Genesis 12, 2 and 3. And I want you to reflect on the story with God and Abraham. Abraham was struggling, but he had a desire for financial freedom. He had that desire, and he was very faithful to his creator. And one day God says to him, I will bless you. That was one blessing. God also said, I will bless you so you can be a blessing. That's a second promise. And all the people of the earth will be blessed through you. Now, through Abraham, Judaism was founded, Christianity was founded, Islam was founded. Guess what else? We also learned that Abraham became rich and righteous. All right. We also learned that Abraham became rich with land, livestock. He had an army of over 319 persons that he went to war with to protect kings from losing their land and losing their assets. All right. He had silver and he had gold. He was blessed. He was rich. He was wealthy. He had that desire. Now, Chris and I, as I mentioned early on, Chris is well versed in real estate, like me. Chris is also versed in personal development. I am also heavily involved with real estate and I'm involved in private equity investment. Our mission is to serve you. All right. We could have been taking our time to serve ourselves, but we're committed to providing you with a content of information that's going to transform your life. All right. Chris is 101% committed to wanting you to embrace your sense of self. We talk about that in other broadcasts. Embrace your sense of purpose. You would often talk about it. If you're in life and you don't have a purpose, you don't know your purpose. Believe me, you're going through life with a blindfold over your eyes, and that's not what he wants for you. Chris wants you to have a strong sense of direction, but you must get the blueprint. So when you become registered, when you become part of the men's forum, the family forum, you will get access to these blueprints. So I want to encourage you to go to the description of this video. All right. And I want to encourage you to find the banner, find the QR code, scan the QR code, get registered for this program. For the moment, it's free.
Mhm.
And you could be anywhere in the world. We want to touch you with this program. All right. So you can be a better person. You can be a better person to your spouse, and you can be a better person to your your kids, and you can be a better person in the world who can do bigger things in the world. You can now touch the world and transform the world with the knowledge Chris and I want to give to you, so you can make impact. Chris, all to you, my brother.
Yeah, I agree completely. The biggest thing is, right, it's the biggest thing that I had to learn in my own personal life is we are groomed and we are trained to try to strive for instant gratification.
Yeah.
Right. And we do that our entire life. If I go to work, I make this money so that I can buy this. Right. And we get blinded by that instant gratification. The ones that are truly successful in life and in material things are the ones that can put that aside and delay that gratification. Right. It's what am I going to do today for tomorrow to be better? And that is the key to personal life. That is the key to monetary success. That is the key to all of those things. What can I do today to make sure that I have a better tomorrow, that my family has a better tomorrow, that the community has a better tomorrow, that the entire world has a better tomorrow? Like you said, you and I, neither one of us have to do this, right? I can just coach privately. You can do your own thing, invest, and we could not care about what the outside world does. So many of us are trained on a daily basis. Only worry about yourself. I got to get me, right? I know that if people will just take this blueprint and apply it in their daily life, that we can impact the world on a very broad scale. But I can only bring it to them. Like you say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yeah.
I can't make people learn this stuff. I can't make them apply it in their daily life. I can be willing to be there on a step-by-step basis and help them do it once they commit to doing it. So you have to do one simple thing. You have to register for these platforms. Make sure you submit the registration and then be there and ask for the help and be willing to do the work that is necessary to make it applicable in your life. That's it.
Awesome. Great share, Chris. Now, again, I want to be real with people, and that's what our platform is all about. Best Life Ministry in collaboration with Chris. Chris is the brain behind Men's Forum. He's the brain behind Family Forum. He's the author of Becoming a Better Life. We want to help people to be real. Now, one of the things that I see, Chris, happens also is that very often, as I discuss the sources of income, all right, you must have a source of income if you want to be wealthy. But I see that people look at the income, but very often they are not looking at the expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened, Chris, is that for millions of people across the world, when you measure their income against their expenditure, guess what happened? Instead of they having a positive balance sheet at the end of the month, they have a negative balance sheet. All right. Now, when you see this happen, there are things that you can do. But let me tell you, before I tell you things that you can do, I want to say this. As you earn and you have expenses, at the end of the day, you want a positive balance sheet. Why? Because remember, your future plan, your desire is to get to financial independence. But if you don't have monies to save to help you get to financial independence, guess what? You're going to remain on that paycheck to paycheck cycle. All right. If you don't have money left back, you don't have a positive balance sheet, guess what's going to happen? You can invest in smart investment portfolios. So again, you're going to be compromised. But the reality is, Chris, is that, and this hurts, you just said it. We have over 50% of American population, over 60%, over 70%, over 80% of American population today do not have $400 in their savings account for an emergency event. All right? That's a whole lot of people, my brother. That's a whole lot of people. And what we are saying here, it can help them because their life don't have to be like that. They are working paycheck to paycheck. And there are many reasons why that is happening. We know the reasons. It's documented in the blueprint. And I want to encourage persons to come get registered, all right, in the men's forum, in the family forum, and let us help you get off of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. We will talk to you about group economics. We will talk to you about minimalism. We will talk to you about creative sources of income. We will talk to you about how to break those cycles of trauma. And Chris would have said it, that it's going to destroy you. It's going to destroy your marriage, and it's going to significantly affect the relationship that you have with your kids. And Chris want to help you. Chris and I, we want to help you to fix this long before it becomes a problem. All right. Chris, any last words you want to share before we start to wrap up?
No, just, I hope that everybody heeds the calling, right? It's a matter of, this is not
urgency. It's a matter of urgency.
Yeah, this is not, something that I just learned in a book. All right. This is not something that I was taught over years. This is practical life experience from me, literally living this life and destroying my life for over 40 years. When they read the first chapter in my book, they will realize exactly what kind of destruction I'm talking about. And it was only after being at that rock bottom and having nowhere else to turn that I started trying to realize what it would take to turn things around. You don't have to do that. I am laying all of this out here for you so that you don't have to be that 42-year-old man that lost his family and his job and everything else, right? You can turn it around quicker. It can be turned around pretty quickly if you know the right steps to do so. And that's why I am freely offering you these proper steps to make it happen. So please heed this call, and please understand that we are only doing this because I want to see people prosper. I don't want to see people struggle the way I did. So if you feel like you need some help in any of these areas, join the forums for free, get connected, and let's get to work.
Yeah. Chris, just before we wrap up, I want us to just reflect on an experience that we had recently. I see many young persons today, they're going through trauma. And they're trying to fix it all by themselves.
Yeah.
And I want to say to young people, get a mentor, get a coach, get a sponsor, become part of a supportive community. Now, the experience I want us to reflect on, Chris, is only recently we interfaced with a young man, and I'm happy that you're now coaching him, you're mentoring him right now. And he happens to be in a lot of credit card debt, which is not unique because we have over 50% of American population that has in excess of 5 credit cards. All right. And they are way into debt. Many of them just don't know how to manage it. And what I see is that when they're at that place in debt, they tend to believe that there's no way out. And what I recognize coming out of that interaction, Chris, is that experience ties back to a lot of things that we talk about today. A lack of knowledge, people shall perish. Because that person wasn't even aware that right among us lies the solution. All right. So what they were seeing as being a practical, impossible possibility to exit because of the knowledge set that is right there in the group, we could fix this problem in a matter of months. And from there, you can start to position him to live the best life ever. All right. So I want to give you kudos for taking that individual on board and providing that mentorship and that coaching. And at the right time, we will then talk with him about how to get out of credit card debts
Mm-hmm.
and how to position himself for
Mm-hmm.
greatness. But keep doing the great work that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
because without a doubt, millions of people around the world they need this type of information.
Mm-hmm.
Or they may not have credit card debt because in developing economies, they don't have a fully developed credit card systems. So they may not have similar that experience. But believe me, Chris, while they may not be in debt, they may have another trauma where they need access to capital
Mm-hmm.
so they can embark on their dreams and their hopes and in their
Mm-hmm.
aspiration. In our community, what we can do is help them to fix those credit card problems. But we can also help them to access capital when they have a healthy FICO score. And once they fix that, we're going to then tell them never leverage your FICO to
Mm-hmm.
get that. You only
Mm-hmm.
leverage it as a PG, a personal guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
You leverage this as a personal guarantee, and you're now leveraging your PAYDEX score to access capital.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is in the PAYDEX is in the PAYDEX. It doesn't affect your FICO. So
Mm-hmm.
you have a healthy FICO that you can keep doing great things with. So there's so much for us to unpack for young people and people generally who wants to prosper, who wants to live their best life. Now, we really want to help people. So I want to say to the public, Chris is an excellent mentor. All right. And my interaction with him is that he can be in a storm and he quickly assess that storm and he makes very smart decisions. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain that you understand you're a storm too. And
Mm-hmm.
because there's several
Yeah.
have you.
You know, that's the biggest thing that I had to realize, man, is no matter how prepared you are, life shows up,
Life
right?
shows up.
And it's how you react. You know, there is a certain thing to be said about doing informed actions and all those things, but the main key to life is your reaction, right? We can decide that anything that happens in our life can be negative, or we can turn it into a positive.
Yeah.
Once you have the know-how that is provided in these forums to have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, everything in your life can be a positive. It's, yeah, okay, this bad thing happened to me, but maybe it was God doing it because I was going down the wrong path in that certain situation, and he needed to stop me from going down that path so that I could go down the path that I'm supposed to be going down, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's always
Mm-hmm.
a different way to look at it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's always going to be something. Oh, if this just would have turned out different, my life would be this way. No, that happened for a reason, because you're being steered to being who you're supposed to be. But
Exactly.
you have to start taking action steps to be that person.
Yeah. Chris, when steel gets into fire, um, it can take any form.
Yeah.
So when that storm come and you're going through fire, I think that you just have to be receptive and just ask yourself, what can I learn?
Yeah.
All right. Not why me.
Yeah.
For what can I learn and how can I apply it
Yeah.
and better my life? Because the reality of life is that there will always be a situation.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Some of those situations you will like it, and some of them you will wish that you could completely avoid it. But avoiding it is not going to necessarily help you. All right. Embracing some of the challenges and growing through it is going to give you a wealth of knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
So you can now be a blessing to so many other persons and people in the world. So Chris, again, I want to thank you for keep doing the good work that you're doing. We have only now getting warm up, and but I see big things. I see great things ahead, and because I'm certain that the work that you're doing, it's relevant to young people, it's relevant to people. I see people going through all types of trauma, and I know that your knowledge can definitely help them to navigate some of those rough terrain. And then we take them over at Best Life Ministry, and we really show them how to embrace the best quality of life.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen. All right, my brother. We'll do this again next week, and you have a great rest of the day.
You too, brother.
Awesome.
Family Forum. For a new generation of people, learn smart ways to build individual and generational wealth. Live and lead more purpose-driven lives. Build and leverage community leadership. Build strong personal and corporate brands. Take personal and collective ownership of family life. Family Forum, for a new generation of families.